morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the final day of Aboagora for this year. My name is Nina Kivinen, and I'm part of the organizing committee for Aboagora this year. And I'm very happy to welcome you to this wonderful workshop that contains music and sound, vision, and lots of improvisation. This workshop has been called Ornament, Creating Cosmos Out of Chaos. And it's been arranged by the AmosLAB, the first, I think, major event. And the man in charge is here, Jan-Erik Andersson, visual artist located here in Turku. And Janne has invited other artists to join him in this workshop. So we have Mats Lillhannus, singer and performer, Ulf Långbacka, composer and choir conductor, Florakören, female choir of this university, of Aboagora University, where I've sung myself as well, so warmly welcome. And then we have sound artist Dirk Huelstrunk. Sorry.
Huelstrunk.
And they will all give us a sort of interconnected performance, and there will be time for questions afterwards. So warmly welcome, and I'll give the floor to Janne.
Ulf. Dirk. Whew.
Actually, I'd like you for the beginning just to breathe out slowly, like a little moaning breathing, just like whoo. I get a sound like this. Whoo. Wonderful. And after you moan out like this, of course you can breathe in again. And actually I heard the story that Finnish people are able to talk while they are breathing in. Someone has to give me an example, but just try to breathe in now without talking.
Jan-Erik. Ornament, creating cosmos out of chaos. most properly only an accessory to architecture and should never be allowed to usurp the place of structural features or to overload or to disguise them. It is in all cases the very soul of an architectural monument. Owen Jones, The Grammar of Ornament, 1856. But what is natural to the patron and the child is a symptom of degeneracy in the modern adult. I have made the following discovery and I pass it on to the world. The evolution of culture is synonymous with the removal of ornament from the utilitarian object. See, therein lies the greatness of our age, that it is incapable of producing new ornament. We have outgrown ornament. We have fought our way through the freedom from ornament. See, the time is nigh. Fulfillment awaits us. Soon the streets of the city will glisten like white walls, like Zion, the holy city, the capital of heaven. Adolf Loos, Ornament und Verbrechen, 1913. Okay, I lose up a little bit now. In my PhD in the Academy of Fine Arts in Helsinki, I have been researching the concept of ornament. And this is some pages from my book, or some passages from my book. And there has been very many attempts at defining what an ornament is. And Kent Bloomer, he connects or searches for the origin of the word ornament. And as you can see, you can all read here, kind of small ornaments, the letters, if you approach that view to it. But I think that ornaments were used to invite the gods to see our cities and the temples. It's a very interesting thing. But Bloomer, he was very tight about that. He thought that ornament is a language and it has certain rules to follow. But we have other researchers like Bent Brolin, who is very much more loose about this. And during the 20th century, we have seen that also that there is a misunderstanding of what is ornament and what is decoration. So for many architects, ornament is something which is connected to architecture, and decoration is something which is superfluous, and we don't need that. But Brent is of that opinion that there is actually no difference between an ornament and a decoration. For the structural features of a building, they are both unnecessary. And this is also very interesting. And there is no connection to any kind of morale or anything. Do we ornate a building or not? And traditional place of an ornament were usually on the borders because of the, as you saw if you read the text, they are usually We have the heaven and we have the earth, and we have the ornament as a kind of a borderline, a osmotic border there. And I think this is also very interesting. And this is a function of the ornament we have actually lost. If you see a contemporary architecture, which is usually made around some kind of boxes, or then they are very ornate buildings, like they get to be sculptured themselves. But usually, if you think about the old cottage, the nice little cottage with a pipe and a smoke, that's a very beautiful metaphor about the connection between earth and the sky. And earlier on, it was very usual to create, the pipes were ornate objects, and you might recognize Venice here, but it can also be very, very cheap. This is in Turku, in Ruissalo. It is made by a cheap plot, whatever it is in English. This is too early to remember all the words. And if you have more money, you can do it like this. Okay, this is from Berlin. Or this is a very nice example of how people who are not skilled in anything, they can do ornament. It's very funny. It's hard to cut out from this. It's not a question of money. It's an aesthetical thing. Do we want them or not? Adolf Loos thought that our age cannot produce them. We are not skilled enough because of the machines that took over, and the machines do non-personal ornaments. Now we have computers and we can actually use them to create ornaments, and so actually there is a possibility of restoring ornament. And talking about this building here, which is a very interesting building because it has like a fantastic interior and a kind of uninviting exterior. And this, the architect Waldemar Beckmann has designed this building, and it's interesting to see the path of his life. This is the Helsinki School of Economics, which were very ornate. You see these very nice reliefs. And then, 20 years later, it gets to be like this. This is in Helsinki. This is Waldemar's building. This is also his building. It's like, I think it was 10 years later he made that, let's say, 1960. And it's totally, you can see these structures here, I don't think they are functional actually. So there is a kind of ornament built in. And then we come to the Sibelius Museum, which actually has ornaments. This is not necessary for the function of the building. It's aesthetical, but it's very minimal and it's very controlled. And also, there you see this is also very ornate, but it's very minimal. But inside we have kind of I think this is a very fantastic use of concrete. With straight lines you can create kind of a very organic feeling. And then Waldemar ended up, and this is in Turku, Olavin Crowe building. I didn't find any better picture. Well, I mean, very many people don't care about, I mean, if they have an apartment and they can ornate their apartment and they can create their own little world, and many people don't think it's important that the building talks to the outside world. But what happened with Le Corbusier was he actually borrowed a lot from Adolf Loos, and he also in his text from 1920s, he was very, very much against ornament. There should be no ornament, only very, very functional buildings. But actually, the Villa Savoyer was in very bad crisis also in the 1960s, but nobody could live there because it's so very non-functional. The water comes in everywhere. So it's actually a question of aesthetics. Le Corbusier wanted this aesthetics, which is very, very kind of minimal, but it's still is a kind of, it's not a box actually. It's very, very sculptural. But if you see what he did after the war, if you have been in Marseille, this is a very interesting building. This cité, I can't pronounce French. But it's a fantastic building because it's actually it's filled with ornaments. And talking about this connection between the sky and the earth, look at that upper floor there. It's wild. It's really ornate. And if you go closer to the building, you can see this he had this kind of human shape which showed all the measurements of the good architecture, and that's made like an ornate thing in the concrete. And also he made this kind of small glass paintings, and also when you go up there, it's totally wild. There were like swimming pools originally for the people, and they could run here like a running track. And also look at that. Check out that one. That's really traditional ornament. And this is by the guy who 20, 30 years earlier said we don't know. But actually nobody talks about this concern. But I find it very, very nice and very interesting. This is all from the inside. Usually Corbusier is connected with very brutalist concrete art, but he made actually very many, really, I think, very beautiful buildings. And one other icon of the minimalist modernist, actually what Mies van der Rohe, the first major work was this Barcelona pavilion in 1929, but check out this ornament, check out the marble stuff here. It's the same kind of stuff you can find in the churches in Istanbul, for example. The same kind of Rorschach patterns. So they were all really ornate, but they said this is material, it's concrete, but the concrete had its own pattern. So they didn't talk about ornament, but they used it anyway. Also actually Adolf Loos, this is the Loos house in Vienna, these pillars, they actually could have been made very, very simple and very, very cheap, but Loos wanted them to have there would be a kind of a pattern going, which makes them like they are whole concrete blocks, which is very, very, very expensive to make. So he actually also wanted to ornate the building, actually. And today we have, for the last 20 years, we have this interesting thing that the whole building turns into some kind of ornament. And this is very controversial, because very many architects think that this is like a sign of bad capitalism. For example, the very famous Gale, his name is from Denmark. He was in the same seminar as me talking, and he said they are like perfume bottles. You know, totally unnecessary perfume bottles. But I think this is an attempt to go back to create some kind of beauty, and using also. I mean, they are kind of structural things going here, but they are they are not really necessary for the structure. It's a very nice combination, I think. Also in Finland we can see many examples of how these very minimal box buildings can be ornamented with this kind of printed concrete, which we have actually invented in Finland. Or there's one guy who has done it a lot. He says he actually had invented it. I don't know if it's true. But this is from the Hämeenlinna archive building. So they are using symbols from books. And this is one of my favorite buildings in Finland. It's the Maritime Museum in Kotka, which is a actually very ornate building. It's made like a big wave, so you can go up here on a big ramp and sit there and have your own meal. It's very nice. And there's also a figurative ornament here, which is, as you know, the modernism tend to be very abstract and just strip the art away, actually, at least the figurative art. But here they have not used artists to create this. The architects really want to control everything themselves. So, but anyway, I think it's an attempt. But this is also very controversial. I spoke with Kari Taipale, who is very critical about this kind of iconic buildings, and she said this is totally crap. So it's interesting, but I find it very nice to go up on this ramp, for example, and also inside it's a kind of nice feeling. And I have written a new book, which you can find there also, where I try to trace what is the ideal building. What if you let an architect loose, what does he really want to do, or she want to do? So it usually comes to the very minimal gray or black box building. This is by Pekka Mäki, who is one of the most famous architects in Turku, this building here. I mean, I'm not talking now if you like it or not, but I just show you that this building is actually stripped out of everything. There is not one artwork hanging in this house either. So it's kind of, the minimalism has kind of taken over, and the art element is kind of stripped away usually. Actually, it's a very nicely made house in this style, but I'm just trying to show, to talk about, if this is the ideal, then we don't get any ornaments. And then I made my own house in Turku as an experiment to really see where the borders of architecture are, and what the role of artist who is connected to a building, what they can do with a building, going into the structures, not by bringing artworks into the house, but by shaping the outlook of the building, the details, making ornaments wherever it's possible. So this is inside our house. It's a concrete wall. It's grey concrete, but it's ornate with these dandelion flowers. And we made ourselves this ornate floor with computer-cut pieces of linoleum. It's not very complicated to do. You design the pattern and then you start to glue. You get a very personal floor. And also I wanted to see, because I have a kind of reaction against the modernist window, you know, going like being like one wall, because I can talk about that later. But so I wanted to see what kind, if you make this kind of iconic windows, you know, having like shapes from like drops, hearts, leaves, how do they affect the mental space you have inside the house? So this is our main room, and as you can see also we have ornate floors, painted concrete, but it's also recycled. All our auto tables and everything is living side by side here. And this is a old light fixtures bought from second-hand shops during 26. And you can dim them for parts. And you can find an ornament. It's made for the electrical plug, because as you can see, it's one of the most important symbols of this age is the electrical plug. So I just wanted to see if you can create contemporary ornament using contemporary icons and figurative stuff. And actually, the company who made these stairs, actually it was cheaper to make this ornate plate there than to make two sticks there. Yeah. And we have an artist group from Chicago. They made an ornament for the upper floor's toilet. It's USA bombings. And then we have artists who made this stuttering modernist shit. It's Kandinsky. And all other, there's all kind of jokes going on in the house. And this is the floor plan for the ground floor. As you can see, it's a stylized leaf, and if you do a building based on a leaf shape with windows like that, you get 99% of the architects they get mad. There might be some architect here also. Like usually, this is the border you cannot step over, and that's what I wanted to do. But this is actually made with a Safa architect, which I have been doing work with for 20 years. This is not the first building we have been doing like this kind of expressive, funny architecture. Nighttime. There is a bluebell flower up there put on the leaf. And also, I have been just to show that, well, in the borderline between heaven and earth, okay, let's put some shovels, and I mean this Finnish energy of this like digging after love under the fir tree. So this they have a meaning. But of course you get to hear that they are not a part of the architecture. They are just decorations. But I think it's very important to have this kind of stuff. And people who drive by, they usually they like it. It cheers up their working trip to the job. So this is, of course, a lot of handicraft work to create this one. This is for the base of the house. Because this is all things you have to try out yourself, and nobody has actually done this for a very long time. So the only little mistake was this because there is so heavy powers when they put the concrete in there and it starts to go like this. So if you haven't fastened this the stuff into the mold and then it tears off, this was the only mistake. And just to show you, we have a sound work inside the house, and this is a wind sensor. Then we have one light sensor also on this wall. But this is planned. We have a nice stone outside. I wanted to have like a dish window to see this very Japanese aesthetics. This is from the bathroom. We have been making it with my son who was 4 years old. So he made this, you see this robot there, with the water gun. This was kind of a therapy room. We just had fun and we did a lot of but okay. And then in my this PhD, which you also can find there in Finnish, it's actually coming out in English next month on a kind of a like Holland company. But I'm very interested in this concept of iconic space. That what is happening? What is the difference between this window and a very modernist window? We were talking about the concert hall in the new concert, the Nobel hall yesterday in the dinner. And this is very, very modernist building. It's I don't know if they are going to do it or not, but sorry, I can't find this pointer. This is very modernist window. It's just like a wall just filled with glass, and it's very popular. But if you think, there is an architectural theorist called Beatrice Colomina, who says that well, even if you think that you have a direct connection with whatever is out there, nature or something else, it still distances you from the outside because it functions as a camera, the whole window. So this is very interesting because if you then think about an ornate window which function as a mediator between the nature and your brain. So it takes a step in true iconic shape. And I think this does something to the brain because it might be so that these shapes, that they function differently. They stir up more things than to have this kind of direct outlook which you get used to it after a while. But this is something I'm going to write my next book about. So I just did this yesterday because I wanted to. You have the nature outside. This is the sharpening here. Then you have the window like an ornament, and then you have the grain here. This is what I'm going to research now. And to end this and get close to the role of sound as ornament also, which we have been very interested with sound artist Sean Decker, professor at the Chicago Art Institute. We have these are so bad. Oh, God. Okay, I point. You see this ornament, this is actually Per Kaun running to his small garden very close to the house. But we have 30 small speakers in the ornament, which all the speaker has a small sound. And one of the railings is connected to the wind sensor outside, and the other railing is connected to the light sensor. So we bring nature into the house through culture. Through art, through sunworks, through iconic shapes, through ornament. That's one artist who wanted to have a dance going through the concrete, so she made it. But let's see, here now if we can. I found a sound file by Mr. Decker, but it's a little bit tricky because these sounds are very, very light, like. So we are actually sleeping very close to the sound work. So they are on all the time and they live their own lives, so they actually cannot be too loud. And my partner didn't want any sound work at all, and I said, sound work, sound. So it got to be kind of a compromise. Which actually all the house is also a compromise in that way that my partner is a minimalist and I'm a maximalist. so we have those white clean walls also there. Because it's a family house. It's not my brain living there. Let's see if we can test it. You have to turn up very, very low. even more. There are some small. There's so much background noise from this recording stuff. There. Pick that back up. And then, when we are watching a movie, sometimes this bursts out there. And also, when we go to sleep, there's a concert between this work and the sound from the fridge, and some mice running there before we trap them. And so this is kind of our go to sleep concert. So, and we have been doing a lot of works with Jan-Erik, like a sounding sauna and all this kind of stuff, where to see how sound is functioning as an ornament. And we don't want to hear this anymore, okay? We can just let it be. And through our studies, we found out there is a guy called Oskar Fischinger. In the 1930s, he made this experiment by painting the soundtrack of a film. As you all should know, when they had sound is optical. I mean, when they made those films before the digital era, there's a soundtrack, and it's all light, different shades of light, all the sound. So if you play it through their machines, it comes out as sound. So he figured out that if you make ornaments on the soundtrack, you actually can get like very pure sounds, which are also ornaments. So Oskar did a lot of this stuff, but the Oskar Fischinger Foundation didn't let me play this kind of stuff. It's they are very, you can't find them on YouTube anywhere. They are protected really, really heavily. So I cannot play you Oskar's stuff, I'm very sorry, but he was of the opinion that there is a very, very, very strong connection between ornament and sound. And then I started to think about the minimalist music in USA, you know, everything from Terry Riley's in C, all this stuff continued in John Adams and Philip Glass. Also Michael Newman and André Essen, who's been the favorite composers of the guy we are going to hear later today. They also used these minimalism in elements. And actually I started thinking that this is a very ornamental stuff. Actually, nobody actually considered these very repeating small sound pieces as ornaments. So this is a kind of a new view from which I think I actually want to study more. But we have other nice examples also of like scores. Philip Cornelius Cardew, he made this in the 1960s. That he was a very kind of a serial composer earlier. Then he got to be a Maoist during the 60s, and he thought that okay, the art should go out to the public, and also these kind of scores which the interpreters could interpret however they like, actually. So he gave over the power of the composition to the people who actually were playing it. But they look very, very ornate and very graphical. And then I will end with Ligeti, who made this articulation piece in the 1950s, this is actually this very nice, colorful graphic score was made actually in the 1970s when he got to be a small pop star even. So they started to sell these posters of this score. But this is more that you actually, when I see this, I start to get these sounds in my brain, or what? And I found one interpretation of this, which I will end with, before we started up with the other guys again here. I hope this wasn't too long. Let's see. So although this is not made on a film and it's not played that way, but it's an interpretation of this score. But actually, you could paint this on a film, and you would get sound from that also. Okay, let's see, Dirk.
Yeah, after all these talk about ornament, maybe it's no time for the white thing. I have a piece called The White Thing, but I will do it in German. There are some German words involved. I don't know if some of you understand German, but it's not many words. It's only das Weiße is the white thing. And there's also the word das meiste, which sounds similar, but just means the most. And there's also kind of a wordplay about das weiß ich nicht, which means I don't know. So that's about the words that are in there. ich doch nicht. Das weiß ich doch nicht. Das weiß ich doch nicht. Das weiß ich doch nicht mehr. 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 Das weiß er doch nicht mehr. Das weiß ich doch nicht mehr. Das wissen wir doch nicht mehr. Das weiß ich doch nicht mehr. Das weiß er doch nicht mehr. Das weiß ich doch nicht mehr. Das weißt du doch nicht mehr. Das weiß ich doch nicht mehr. Das weißt du doch nicht mehr. Das weiß das keiner doch nicht mehr. Das weißt du doch nicht mehr. Das weiß das keiner doch nicht mehr. Das weiß doch nicht mehr. Das weiß ich doch gar keiner doch nicht mehr. Das weiß ich doch gar nicht mehr. Das weiß doch gar keiner doch nicht mehr. Das weiß ich doch gar nicht mehr. Das weiß doch gar keiner doch nicht mehr. Das weiß ich doch gar nicht mehr. Das weiß doch gar keiner doch nicht mehr. Das weiß ich doch gar nicht mehr. Das weiß doch gar keiner doch nicht mehr. Das weiß ich doch gar nicht mehr. Das weiß doch gar keiner doch nicht mehr. Das weiß ich doch gar nicht mehr. Das weiß doch gar keiner doch nicht mehr. Das weiß ich doch gar nicht mehr. Das weiß doch gar keiner doch nicht mehr. Das weiß ich doch gar nicht mehr. Das weiß ich heute wirklich nicht mehr. I don't know this today.
Saint Augustine writes in one of his sermons concerning the Psalms about workers on a vineyard returning home after a hard day's work, harvesting the vine. They are happy, harvest has been good, and they start singing and dancing. And after a while, they run out of words. But they continue singing and dancing. This, Augustine says, is like the wordless jubilation of the soul in the presence of God. Now, the function of song, of music in the medieval church there was a mundane function of projecting the words. You can hear better sung words than spoken words in a large church. But song, of course, also embellishes. It's embellishment of the liturgy, and it makes words something more than words. It's like introducing this wordless jubilation of the soul into what would otherwise just be sermons, texts. And this is especially the case in the liturgical element called the Alleluia, one of which I will sing now. It's just 6 words, but very embellished words.
You heard the choir sing in the beginning. We have worked with choral improvisation for a time, and now we started with one note, ornamenting into a web and trying to create a musical landscape. And we wanted also to include the audience in this improvisation in some way, so I thought that we could do 2 small exercises that reverse this process. We start from chaos and go into order. And I hope that will give you some thoughts about chaos and order and about listening and musical communication. So you can take part, but you can also just listen and enjoy the process of doing this. This is a bit like starting together. You all take any note, any sound, and try to slide into a common sound. I remember trying to wake up my mother in the morning with singing a beautiful happy birthday. And me and my siblings started on, we forgot to give each other the note. We started on a random note, and the result was really a jarring cacophony, and my mother was very scared. But it's interesting to see how people can merge into one sound. Usually it works very well. So now you can use your voice, but you can also listen if you like. So if you just take any sound, random sound, produce it with your voice and keep it. Let's try that. I give you a sign and then you just produce a sound. Now. Very nice. Now we can do it in another way. If you all take the vowel and then you just listen to each other and try to find your common note, a single pitch, just by listening. This is usually the way we start improvising in choir, trying to find the common pitch. So you can please try that. Start on your random sound and then try to slide to a common pitch. Now. Wonderful, interesting that we got a fifth and that the church will really join in the same pitch. That's a wonderful coincidence. Then I would like to try another little exercise, and that is that you all say your first name. And you repeat, not very loud, but just, and then we try to listen, and we choose one name. like sliding into a pitch, then try to find a name that you can read. Usually this works.
And it's easy to close the eyes.
If you close your eyes, then it's easier. So, we continue this for a while, and then when we have found the name, we'll start. So, yes. Lauri won.
Dirk, the end.
Okay, for the end, oh, it's a little bit loud. So, I have also a piece I would like you to work together with me. It's a very simple piece. It has the title Repetition, and it only consists of the word repetition. And I would like you to come up in front of the microphone. I will have it on the stand here, and just say the word repetition, or toisto, I think it's in Finnish. You can do whatever you like, English or Finnish. Just into the microphone, I will loop it, and we'll make a little sound sculpture with that. I will start the loop, and then you can come up and continue, and it will sound like this. Repetition, repetition, repetition. So it's repetition, either in Finnish or in English, as you like. Repetition, repetition, repetition. So you just need to come up to this microphone here and say the word toisto or repetition once in the microphone. That's repetition, 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 repetition. Repetition, 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 repetition,
Well, it's there. You want food or you want to say something?
Thank you very much, everyone. Could I have performers up here for questions? So someone from Florakören. Ulf, could you perhaps come in front as well, and Dirk? Questions, comments to all of them, some of them.
If somebody wants, then afterwards there are some stuff by me and Dirk here. I mean, we are artists. We need to get money. So, some stuff there. But okay, let's get the questions.
Oh, well, why didn't you tell that looping system comes from 50s? It was very popular using just ordinary tape recorders. Now it's done electronically, but once you have heard it a few times, it's very boring. And actually, in Viitasaari, 10 years ago, Pekka Kuusisto used that kind of system, quite similar system. And even then, I found it very boring.
That was a question for me.
How often do you use that? And if you have new audiences, people perhaps are impressed.
Well, actually, I like it that it's boring. It's hard to say. I'm aware that the looping idea is not a new idea, and the tape looping is actually a very funny thing, and I know these experiments from 1950s. Yeah, I like to reduce the sound to just repeating itself. And of course the repeating can be boring, like any ornament can be boring, I think, if you look on that ornament too much. But I think what could be interesting for some people is that the more you repeat, the more it gets out of control, you know, and there's little things happening in between that you cannot control. And sometimes I use words, but the words get a little bit distorted, and then people would understand something completely different than things that I said. So every performance is actually quite different, though I only repeat. And well, I think, to me, that is interesting. Maybe to some people it's boring, but I think boredom is not such a bad thing anyway. So.
Can I comment on the same thing? We got a looping machine in high school when I was 14 years old. That was like 15 years ago. And we played with it every day, and I'm still really excited about it, so that's a matter of, opinion. If it's boring or not. I don't think so.
Yes.
I like the concept of iconic space. When one thinks about this example which you had from this Hemenka to 30, where the straight lines create the tension, and when one takes Art Nouveau building, where different elements create harmony, it's somehow much closer to our spiritual life. But I'm very angry with the frame as such. There is in a way, terror of the frame which is exposed on us. And as a filmmaker, I would like to get rid of camera, but I don't know how to go about it. Do you have any idea?
Well, I'm using a camera myself also, and I'm very fond of taking always snapshots. You know, selfies already 20 years ago. Yeah, the frame. But yeah, I mean, the chief of the architectural magazine in Finland, he said in an interview concerning the Guggenheim Museum we are planning in Helsinki that the box is in again. And I thought, well, I mean, how can you say that, you know? Because there is like millions of boxes. If somebody is trying to do like something a little bit different, there is always immediately a heavy reaction. So I think people would need to try out other kinds of spaces. And for example, sculptor Richard Serra, who is very famous for his like very big metal curved sculpture. He said that this hopefully this next century will be the curved century, because there is another sense of time in a building which has this curve. And certainly it affects, but when in Finland there are no experiments except for perhaps a few small, like there's an architect, Olavi Koponen, who belongs to the A-class architect. But he is one of the few who has tried out something with his spiral-shaped house in Espoo, like a small attached house. But there are not that many experiments concerning, and all those windows and all this stuff. There's nobody experimenting with this. No, and everybody says it's a question of money, but it's not always.
It seems to be that spiritual life is reserved for churches.
Yeah, but also as Adolf Loos stated, also he saw the white walls as Zion. Unfortunately, the unadorned space has been connected with spirituality. also. so it's very interesting issues and very, but I hope we could experiment more with this kind of, where people live and how the space affect, and also how sounds affect all the time us.
Is there a question at the back first?
Yeah, I was actually going to keep quiet today, but I'd like to say, of course it's a matter of interpretation, but no way what you just performed for us, especially the second one, was boring. I thought it was marvellous, and particularly when you got all of us to come up with just one particular name, which was it Lowry? Are there any Lowrys here? I think it's, again, what I mentioned yesterday, is to do with the brain. The brain is trying to create order out of chaos, and you must know, of course, of Brian Eno's sound experiments. He's got something called the bell, which goes on for ages. The whole idea is it should be a long, long, long time, and the mind starts to draw around some patterns or something. And when you did your second performance, and you're using this, because you're talking about architecture, this concrete here, you've got a marvellous drone feeling to it, and there's this sort of musical or sound movement that people like drones. And even to link it to what you had showing the destruction of the Blue House, I was there actually, it's so sad. You know also that people are trying to get sounds out of industrial sounds. So as we go around our environment, we hear all these machines, especially the pounding machine that's putting the foundations in. And our mind creates a sound order, an ambience that we can sort of cope with. So I would like to end by saying, no way was it boring. I found it fascinating how we could try and get this sort of pleasant sound out of it. So well done.
Of course, yeah.
The second performance, actually. So extremely well done.
Erik.
What is functional architecture really? You can say that a building is functional if it is strong enough to keep together so it doesn't fall apart. But you could also say that it is functional if it's possible to live in, you should eat comfortably, sleep well, work well, and so on. And if your work is thinking, ornaments might be functional because they make you think. But we also got an illustration here that if you repeat the same thing again, over and over again, you just get a single noise. So you must combine repetition and variation. And this is the balance between chaos and order, really. And you had it in your soundscapes because they varied according to sensors interacting with environment and interacting with you, probably, too.
Yes, thank you for that comment. It's very, very good because, I mean, if I would have shown you how the ornament goes, also those who are made in the concrete, they are actually outside, they are on the base of the house outside, they are very strict in when they start, but then when we get to the entrance, they get crazy. So we just, I said to all the students who were there, just do whatever you like to me. so there is always a kind of a like artistic twist there all the time, but you have to find it. Yeah, but that's also good to have this view that variation. Yeah, sure. Thank you.
We had a question at the back.
I think my question partly came just before me, but just on the ornament versus function thing. If we see through a window, that's kind of an ornament, and that changes our perception and changes our mindset or atmosphere. Or if we have ornaments added to melody that then make us feel more spiritual or whatever. Are those functions, or are those kind of just ornaments? Like where really is a border, as we heard before? Like is a color an ornament, a color that helps our learning or whatever? So I'd like to hear kind of the functional side of the ornament, both from architectural and musical side.
Well, if you start me talking about this, you're never going to get any food. But I mean, very many architects, they philosophy like this that if you use color, then it's a question of taste. And that was exactly the opinion of Immanuel Kant in his book about aesthetics. That so in that way, you should keep to the black and white stuff, which they are doing actually. Get rid of the color. But I feel that, well, it's nice with different tastes, and I think the cityscape should be filled with different houses, with different colors, and different, also black and also grey, but also other stuff. So I'm not a supporter of the homogeneous cityscape. I want a totally mixed up cityscape.
So from a musical point of view, or perhaps also more generally, I think it's very much a question of what you mean when you say function. Is it when building a house, if its function is just keeping the rain out, then a box is fine, for a while at least. But if you define function as something more, something about being human, about feeling well, about developing yourself, about stimulating your soul, whatever. That's very much the case with music, I think. Then you need something more than a box, or you need something, ideas, ornaments, repetitions, whatever works to get the soul, the mind going.
And also, if you think about the so-called sustainable future, then the energies of ornamentation, I mean, it's about slowing down, taking care. You saw the very beautiful Art Nouveau house they tear down in this city. I mean, it's all about caretaking. You make the ornament, you put them up, and there are very symbolic values in this, which I think we need to value now when we start to build up a very different future.
When you asked about music, the question is a bit tricky because there is no clear other function for ornaments than is for music generally. But generally, talking about music, it's used the word ornaments or embellishments. You have some kind of original melody, something that is more simple, and then you ornament it and make it to something else. But the interesting thing is that often melodies that originally are ornaments become like a new original, which you again can make ornaments on. So the difference is not so very clear.
Beyond the fascination I felt listening to all of you, I wanted to thank you to help me realize again how much the main concept of this seminar, chaos and order, chaos and harmony, sense and nonsense. Thank you, you helped me to realize more than ever how much this dichotomy, how much their frontier is problematic, relative, and elastic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Then we had a question at the end of the row.
I actually got the answer to my question already because I wanted to ask about how you use ornament, or like Jan-Erik said in the beginning, that it's not easy, just as you asked from there, what is actually a functional building and what is function if not also to live and to live more fully and not only breathe and eat and sleep. But then I was going to ask about that. Ulf actually already answered about how ornament is used in music, but then I suddenly started thinking, how is ornament or ornate objects talked about when it comes to instruments? Is there any about instruments, functionality, and how, because I guess that this can also be if you play an instrument, or if I would view a concert in a very traditional place and then suddenly all of the instruments would start glowing and it would all become dark, that would also be kind of ornating the objects that would do something with my perception of the musical. Some kind of question.
Well, it sounds like a beautiful idea. I've never seen it, but
I don't know how to answer that. I think that was a beautiful vision, beautiful idea. But I guess when...
But have instruments become less ornated and more functional, if you see to the, how they look?
An interesting development in especially 20th century music is the way that musicians want to use traditional instruments in new ways and producing other sounds than they are originally meant for. So in that way you could, for instance, blowing into a flute without a sound, or just listening to the sound of the klaffar, the keys and stops, and so in that way you can say that the instruments they become used in new ways, and maybe you could call that kind of a way for the instruments to become ornamental.
Anthony?
Yes. Is this on? Yes. I was just thinking a bit further on this. Jan-Erik, you described this dichotomy in architecture as a dynamics between aesthetics and ornament on one side, and then functionality and modernism on the other side, or something like this. But I think there's another, maybe deeper gap here, because ornament, as I understand it, it's a sort of, you can look at tree branches or patterns in nature that are repetitions, and ornament is, in a sense, a way of reproducing that, I guess. I wonder if you agree with me here. And if you think of ornament in that way, I mean, for example, architecture is it's a continuation of nature, so human building is in one way linked to the patterns of nature. And then I understand modernism as a reaction against this, that the building is not natural. This is a border towards nature. There you get shapes that are purely geometrical and so forth. So it's a breach with the environment. I would say the most modernist construction there is the white cube. I mean, it's an exhibition space, and whatever you bring into that space is not part of the rest of the city or the rest of the environment anymore. So the purpose of this modernist construction is to isolate stuff from, make a border towards nature. Would you agree on this? Because I think this also changes, I mean, what you say about, if you go into this, I don't find it very fruitful or you can take that discussion also. It's not a question of either or, but I mean, in a sense, rationally it seems like functionalist always wins if it's, I mean, ornament is just aesthetics and function is function. But I think there's a deeper meaning to modernism and a more sinister idea that somewhere behind, but that's maybe my paranoid mind.
Well, if you want to hear or read more, it's more in my book. Because it's a very complex. I mean, there are no simple answers. What actually modernism is, but one idea, at least, was to purify the art forms. You know, that painting should be purified as painting, architecture as architecture. And you know and they thought to go further and further and further, which is also the idea of modernism. Something is progressing all the time, like in music. You know, they try to make music as itself, no performers. You know, music as music and architecture as architecture. And but in the early stage, like for example, Le Corbusier. Okay, there was the White House, but Corbusier also painted. He was actually educated as a painter, not as an architect. At that time, art was still important. Like an element in the white box, you should have the art to bring out the soul. But what is happening actually now, where the minimalism has taken over the modernism actually, and in the minimalist aesthetics, there is no room for art anymore in that way, you know. Or then art is very minimal, but very many architects now they don't want any art anywhere. They want the buildings to be plain and clear, and even people start to feel like that when they make their interior design. We don't want those old-fashioned, you know, paintings or stuff on the wall anymore. Walls clean. This is. So I'm very afraid. Still, we have very many powers who want to bring art into the, you know, sculptures and stuff like that into the cityscape. For example, have my own artwork is behind the Civilians Museum. That was a big scandal also, because they thought it destroys this museum, the artwork. So it's, but the art powers are still so strong, so they can get the art in there. But actually, in the contemporary aesthetics, the architects wants to do it by themselves. And if you think about how it was like 100 years ago, when still in the Art Nouveau, where there were artists and artisans working with the architect. I mean, they made total artworks in that way. So this might be exaggerating, but I'm very frightened for the artist at the moment, actually.
Two final questions, Bengt and then Klaas.
Thank you a lot for a very stimulating presentations. I, of course, start thinking of science as ornaments, and ornaments in science. And one could perhaps argue, I'm not sure about that many scientific theories are like the ornaments on top of the houses you showed, Jan-Erik, trying to bring heavens down to earth. In particular, it's interesting to see ornamental elements in science, and I think quantum mechanics offers a very nice example, because there are two quite different schools in how to deal with quantum mechanics. It's extremely functional. It works very well. And that school who argues that it is essentially a functional creation could say, shut up and calculate, and they do that. And others are interested in trying to interpret or understanding quantum mechanics, and they bring in elements like measurement problem and Schrödinger's cat, etc. And people who are against that regard it as metaphysics, and they may even use the word ornaments. So you make the mistake of ornamenting your science when you try to understand it. See? Okay. And then that brings me to a question to Jan-Erik. Could it be that a main function of ornaments in your house, for instance, is just to get us to understand where we are?
Well, I'm just a silly artist, you know, doing crazy things. I think also that, I mean, when we talk about artistic research, I mean, I was one of the first to start it out in Finland, and it's a very controversial area where you start to study yourself and you study what you are doing. But actually, I don't want to know what I'm doing, you know. And then it's very interesting that if somebody else has some opinion on what the fuck this is, you know. I try to just do it, and I don't think too much about theories and stuff like that when I do it. They're usually afterthoughts. Also, this thing about iconic space, which I told you, it's afterthought. I just wanted to do this with windows, and then I started to think afterwards, well, what is this actually? So I don't have my mission is, I can see that there is something happening with the house, and that's why I can speak about it. But I think it's very interesting that you tell me what I'm doing. So I think you should come to the house and see. Also, it's also very different when you are there. And the concept of space is, of course, something which is people are discussing at the moment very much, and also place. I mean, city. I mean, a place can also be. It's not. At the moment, the architects have total control over what is a place in a city. Normal people have no control over what is a place. And when I had this scandal with this artwork, I was in front of a committee who it's not even elected, this committee. There were like 14 architects in grey suits sitting there. There was one person from the museum, museum administration, but not any person except for the art from the art museums is sitting in this board, who is deciding what is aesthetically good for the city. They are standing in front of these guys who think this is total. They wrote the paper. This is total shit. There is nothing good with it. Not the colors is to hell. And then I got the paper from the art museum saying this is a fantastic work. it takes in account it brings out a space which has been closed. It's now open for people. We are growing flowers there. You know, we are opening up the space, creating a place. But the architects wanted to see this museum from the other side of the river, with nothing there in front of it, not even the small. So I needed to take half of the work away. So, but in a larger group, if we would have in a city administration concerning the city space, we would have ecologists, philosophers, writers, then our cities would look much different.
Final question.
Sorry, musicians. Yes, because the sounds in the cities are very important. How they are, what the time.
There was this question about instruments and whether instruments can be embellished. It strikes me that entire art forms can have a very dynamic relationship between the thing itself and ornamentation, decor, embellishment. I'm thinking of the theatre. I mean, this is an interartial seminar in a way, so we could add theatre. And if you remember, Aristotle said opsis, the visual aspect of theatre, is very lowly ranked. It's not interesting at all. And that went on for a long time. And not very long ago, in many languages, scenography was called decor, decoration. It was sort of an adjunct to this. And you could get along with 4 or 6 set pieces for all kinds of drama. They were just background, they were sort of embellishment. And today that would never work anymore, and this scenography is part of the thing. So what was sort of lowly ranked has been raised in the opinion. So I think the relationship really between thing and embellishment can be very dynamic. And,
Final comment from Toby.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, thank you everybody for the great activity or all your questions and comments. And I just like to refer a little bit to Bengt's question and his great effort to bring us a kind of intellectual analogy between different disciplines. And just would like to translate that to the music side. What is the relation between the embellishment and the function? There is a great example in the Baroque music, early Baroque music, in Monteverdi's music, where the embellishments becomes a key to the function. In Monteverdi's music, it's essential that the performer embellishes certain words in order to make it personal, on the other hand, and on the other hand to make it as communicative as possible. For example, if Monteverdi writes a song about love and spares his last words about the love, he describes it, for example, with the words acqua e vento. In this song he thinks that the love is just a vanishing element, it disappears, like water and wind, like acqua e vento. Then there is a cadenza, which is written in the music like this. Acqua e vento. It's just written like that. But the performer can embellish it in his, as he likes every day, and it might sound like this. Acqua e vento. It's like an echo which disappears. Or another day he feels something else, and it might be acqua e vento. It's even more vanishing, and it's the essential key to the function of expressing love. Thank you.
Anna has something to say to us, but before that I would like to have a round of applause for all performers today. Thank you very much.
Now, food as ornament.